So we are live. We are live. We are live. We are live on Facebook. We are live on the Tea Crane page. We are live on the Matcha Club Thailand, and we are live on your YouTube channel as well. Thank you for allowing me this. And I have to apologize up front because I'm going to torture you today a little bit. And first of all, I would like to introduce myself. My name is Tom Grease. I am the owner and co-founder of Chasiki. We are located in Chiang Mai, Thailand. And I'm a tea head since I was a little kid. Grew up with tea, later on shifted towards coffee, but I finally found back to tea several years ago. And I really enjoy drinking tea. I like the energy that tea gives me, and not just the focus, but also the calmness and the health benefits that it has. And over the past 3 years, we have built our business here in Thailand. And one of the side effects of doing that, we got to know Tyas. And Tyas and I, we have been working together recently on several projects, and there are a couple of more projects coming up soon. And that is one of the reasons why we are doing this live call today. So, Tyas, the stage is yours. Introduce yourself, please.
Well, I think since we're on my page, the Tea Crane, since we are on my YouTube channel, I think many people will already be familiar with this face. But we're also in one of the groups in Thailand, and I think that not everyone there will have encountered me or know exactly who I am or what I do. And so, just by means of brief introduction, I'm Tyas Sosen. I'm a tea ceremony instructor in the warrior style Enshu school in Japan. I have a store in Kyoto, this is the logo mark of it, which is the Tea Crane. And I've been doing things with the Tea Crane since 7 years ago. And since last year in August, I have the store in Kyoto. My focus with tea is basically on discovering some of the most authentic, original, organic or naturally grown Japanese teas, and therefore I go to different tea producers, different tea regions throughout Japan to find what tea tasted like 100 years ago. And then I of course also offer that tea for sale on my homepage as well as in the store, where I also do tea tastings, etc. And I think what we'll be talking about mostly today is my work as an instructor in the Japanese tea ceremony, of which I'm an instructor in the warrior style Enshu style of tea ceremony. And warrior style is in opposition to the merchant style, of which most of the Senke schools, Ura Senke, Omote Senke, Mushano Koji Senke, are part of, because they are descendant from Sen no Rikyu, one of the most prominent figures in the history of Japanese tea ceremony. And he was a member of the warrior, of the merchant class, whereas the founder of the Enshu school and many other smaller schools that exist in Japan are of the warrior class. And so the Enshu school that I practice is of warrior style. And there are many differences between the different schools. And it's that really that I teach. I teach live here in Japan, but also online. And I guess we will dig deeper in our newest project, which is a new online tea ceremony course.
Yeah, basically, we will probably going to dig into that a little bit deeper as well today. But what I would like to share with our audience today is I used to start drinking Chinese teas many, many years ago. And I got introduced to Japanese teas about 8, 9 years ago when I was working as a travel agent. I drank way too much coffee. I had the jitters in the afternoons, and I just didn't feel well. And so I started to drink more tea again. And the tea house that I used to buy my teas back then, they recommended me to try Japanese teas. And that was quite interesting, to say at least, which got me hooked on Japanese teas. At the beginning, I really enjoyed it because of the unique taste a comparison to Chinese teas. Now that I've been in the tea industry for quite some time, I must say that your approach is very, very interesting, which is one of the reasons why we have also started to list your products in our tea house. Um, um, because the organic or the natural approach on the tea is much more interesting, because you have more of the characteristics of original tea. I think nowadays the modern Japanese teas, they all kind of like taste the same, which you also described in your book. Has to be very high in umami, and I think it is taking away a lot of the soul of tea. So I do appreciate your approach and what you're doing, and looking forward to do more of that stuff in the future together with you.
It's good that we're talking about that as well, because of course, for me, tea ceremony is one aspect, but then also looking back into the tradition and the authenticity of what tea is or supposed to be
Right.
is I think even that might be more my life journey or my life mission, to really make or authentic tea production sustainable and help sustain it so that it can be passed on to next generations. Because what is going on in the tea industry in general in Japan now is a complete, for lack of better wording, perversion of what tea really is. And
Right.
I say that because what I see as tea is it's naturally grown, it is just nature itself, it is purely what tea tastes like. Whereas in the tea industry, what is mostly being attempted at the moment is to create a product that is the same all year through and every year, that is not necessarily interesting but easy to handle, and that especially that similarity that can be reproduced all throughout Japan, so that things are easily blended to create larger amounts of a similar type of product. So
Right.
it's more focused directing towards mass production, mass consumption, just supplying the big market, where really authentic and interesting tea does not really have a place at the current.
Right.
So
Yeah, I absolutely agree on that. It's same like with wine. There's so much commercialization with wine, and also with the tea in Japan, that all the products have to taste like the same, more or less, and it has to be easy to reproduce, which is something complete opposite of what the Chinese tea culture stands for. Yeah, as I said, like I really like that approach that you take on teas, and I tasted many of them that you generously sent over to try, and I was completely blown away by some of the stuff that I've tested. Some of the senchas, the 66-year-old sencha from Yame, that was just like incredible. Also, the matchas are completely different from what I've tasted before, and it is very, very interesting to see that approach as well.
and key is that they're all unique, they're all different. It's not
Right.
you have sencha and another sencha that is somewhat similar to it, or that there's a something that looks the same. No, it's all unique individual products with their own character, their own approach, and there's this diversity, and it's that diversity that I think is so very important.
Right. Well, but Tias, as we have communicated with your email list yesterday,
Mhm.
today is a little bit a special day, because I'm going to ask you a couple of questions, which I secretly noted here, and you have no idea what I'm going to ask you,
I have no idea exactly. I'm
which makes it even more interesting. And I think we should just kick off our first question. And for our viewers, if you have any questions, you can interact with us. You can send us comments. They will actually pop up here, and we can reply to you, or I can ask a question to Sensei Sosen for you. So don't be shy and let us know that you're here. I know some of you already liked and hearted our live, and thank you for that. And I would say let's dive right into it.
Alrighty, let's do it.
Already. So my first question for today is, how long did you actually study the tea ceremony?
How long did I actually study the tea ceremony? Do you mean that in hours, or do you mean that in how many years have I been going to practice? And
I think it's in years, right?
yeah, I maybe even if I accumulate the hours, it might still be years.
Yes.
No, I came to Japan initially as an exchange student 14 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And since the moment that I came here as an exchange student, one of the activities that I picked up at the university where I went was tea ceremony. So I've been practicing tea ceremony for 14 years, and I've been going to practice every week since then. So it was rather uncommon because most tea clubs or most teachers where you can go and learn tea either have their practice 2-3 times a month, every 2 weeks, but definitely not every week. So going every week was quite a rarity, but my teacher was very eager to teach and also very eager to learn through teaching, because that's also what happens when you become a teacher. You have to approach the material in a different way. So he wanted to do it every week. I wanted to do it every week because I wanted to learn as much as possible. And that also helped with memorizing everything, because if you have a bigger gap in between, then you don't remember as clearly what you did the time before. So if you do it once a week, then you still have a quite a good memory of what you did the last time. So in total, that's now about 14 years.
Wow, that's quite a long time, I would say. The other question that I have is, what was the main reason for you to actually study the tea ceremony?
So as an exchange student, I came to Japan to figure out what Japanese culture was like. So I wanted to know what Japanese culture was, and I wanted to see it from different angles. So before I came to Japan, I was practicing kendo in Belgium, the way of the sword, Japanese martial art. And coming to Japan, I thought now I should also do some other things, because now I'm at the source. I need to utilize this opportunity. And so besides kendo, I practiced karate, I practiced jodo, which is the way of the staff. And I also did some cultural activities like the No Performance Theater and Ego, the Go board game, and tea ceremony. And amongst all these different aspects of Japanese culture that I practiced, tea ceremony really stood out as being most inclusive of all different aspects of Japanese culture. So what I mean by that is that you're not focusing on just making tea or learning something about tea. That was the interesting thing for me. In tea ceremony, I actually didn't learn a thing about tea. If I would ask my teachers, how is this matcha made, or where does it come from, they would give me the name of the product and the name of the store where they bought it. So that was quite a shocker to me. But what you do learn in tea ceremony is everything around what revolves around serving tea. You need utensils, earthenware, lacquerware, bamboo-ware. You need a calligraphic scroll to hang up. You need flowers. You need a specialized tea chamber. You need, so you have the architecture. You need a garden that leads up to the tea pavilion. So you need to know about garden design. And so basically learning tea ceremony allowed me to study more about Japanese culture, Japanese history, Japanese art, and all the other things, more than I would have been able to learn in any of the other cultural activities that I was engaged in, and more than I would have actually thought. I thought, well, tea ceremony is just well, first of all, my impression of tea ceremony was it's for women, and you just sit there on a floor, knees bent, in pain, in agony, making some tea. Well, I'm a warrior. I do kendo, I do karate, I want action. But then seeing how much of a world the tea ceremony really opened to me, I realized that it was tea ceremony that I needed to practice because I wanted to know what Japanese culture was about. And if anything was going to guide me, then I was quite certain it was tea ceremony for that matter.
So you would say that if somebody actually wants to learn more about, like, for people that are interested in Japan and the Japanese culture, it would be probably one of the best approaches to actually start learning the tea ceremony because you would get the most out of the culture.
I would definitely say so. If you are interested in knowing something about Japanese culture and Japanese tradition, then tea ceremony gives you the broadest. You get so many aspects at once. I would actually even say that tea ceremony is a microcosm of Japanese culture,
Mhm.
and I would also say that it is traditional Japanese life in a compressed form.
Mhm.
Because you get everything. You get the way that you make fire, how you heat up your water, how you treat utensils, how you lay out your room, how you move about, how you hold your posture. There's everything, even how you dress, because kimono is a part of tea ceremony as well. So
Mhm.
knowing how to dress, knowing how to go about, how to hold your posture, how to hold your body, it's all part of tea ceremony. And I wouldn't have imagined that when I started.
Right. Very interesting. I didn't even know that. Cool. Okay, let's hop to our next question, or to my next question for you. And that would be, could you have actually learned what you have learned over the past couple of years, and especially in the beginning when you started to practice the tea ceremony, would have been easy for you to learn these things outside of Japan?
No.
No.
I would actually say it might have been very near to impossible.
Hmm.
It's really because I was here at the source and I had the opportunity of meeting my teacher and of finding a teacher who was eager to teach me every week. Because as an exchange student, I was obviously only going to be here for that term of that exchange, and then they would kick me out of the country and send me back home,
Right.
which they didn't succeed in very well.
Yeah, obviously, yes.
But I don't think that I would really have been able if I thought I have an interest in learning tea ceremony. I'll learn it in Belgium.
Hmm.
I wouldn't have been able to learn it in the way that I have learned it now. I wouldn't have been able to, I might have been able to learn tea ceremony to a certain extent, maybe in another school, but I wouldn't have had access to so much more information around it. Tea ceremony even helped me improve my Japanese just by being in this sort of environment
Hmm.
where Japanese was also a very important aspect. And in the tea ceremony, Japanese is also used in a much greater, to much greater extent. And more archaic Japanese is also being used. So I learned more about everything peripheral just by being in Japan and by having the access to it.
Hmm. And would you say that, I mean, you started obviously like 14 years ago, as you said.
Mhm.
Do you think that in times that we're living in today with the internet and the accessibility of webcams, microphones, and stuff like this, and chat rooms, do you think it is easier today to learn for somebody who's interested in the tea ceremony to do that online? Do you think there is enough qualified content on the market available for people that want to learn?
I think the environment provides a good opportunity, a better opportunity than what was available in the past.
Mm-hmm.
So there is a greater possibility of accessing content that is only available in Japan through the internet. Only what I see is that there aren't that many people who engage in it, and there isn't that very much content available online that really gives you
Mm-hmm.
a in-depth way of learning it.
And especially if you do not speak any Japanese, right?
Oh, and if you do not speak any Japanese, then there's definitely much less content available. It's actually one of the reasons that I wrote my book as well, because there is information available about Japanese tea, but only from a conventional perspective, and also in a limited form.
Right.
So if you really want to go dig deeper and get somewhat of an insider view without being able to go to Japan, then where do you start is what I thought, and that is how I came up with the idea for my book on Japanese tea, and why I also included case studies in my
Mm-hmm.
book.
All right. Okay. So, next question. Do you think it is easy to find a qualified teacher outside of Japan? We kind of actually answered that question already. Probably it's not that easy, especially if you do not speak Japanese. Right?
Well, qualified teachers in tea ceremony in other schools, for example, the Ura Senke school is well represented in other countries. Is it easy to find a teacher? It is less easy to find a teacher, and in many cases, there's also a kind of hurdle in approaching, because there's this, mostly in Japan it's that way, and of course that is also present in tea ceremony circles outside of Japan, where once you start learning tea ceremony with one teacher, you are sort of locked in.
Mm-hmm.
So it's less easy to go just to have an idea, to experience it a little, see if it fits, see if you like it. There are teachers that I know that do allow for a little bit more of flexibility.
Mm-hmm.
But
basically, it's like you have to commit 100% for basically the rest of your life.
Basically, yes. In essence, that is definitely how it is in Japan.
Mm-hmm.
And
Interesting.
of course, that culture, if you're learning the tea ceremony as a culture, then that, of course, also continues outside of Japan.
Right. Cool. You kind of already talked about this without even knowing that I'm going to ask you this question, but
Because I don't know what you're going to ask me.
yeah, I'm going to ask you now. So what I would like to know, and maybe many of our viewers out there, the ones that are watching live and the ones that might tune in later and watch a recording, I would like to know, what is your mission as Tyas Sosen, as a tea master, as a representative for the Japanese tea in general? What would you like to change? What is your mission for the next year or years?
Well, there are different aspects to that. First of all, why do I work with tea in the way that I do it is because I see that we are losing tradition. We are losing touch with tradition. And through that, I might also even say that we're losing touch with nature.
Yep. Definitely.
And for myself, I find it very important to maintain that contact.
Mm-hmm.
Do not just get carried away by consumerism, by capitalism, by everything that sort of dominates our culture. today, but that we also look back to culture that existed in the past and that was actually rooted in a coexistence between man and nature. And really, the scroll that I have here to my side says Shin Do Fuji in Japanese. Shin means body, Do means soil or earth, and Fuji means no two difference, no and two, which means basically that the body and the soil, or the body and the earth, are one and the same. And that is really what we come from the earth and we go back to the earth. And everything that we put in our body to nourish ourselves also comes from the earth. So in the end, it is a beautiful circle that it starts with coming from the earth, then has its life circle, and then goes back to the earth. And it's a beautiful conclusion. And for me, maintaining that connection with our natural environment is important. And I see a lot of value in tea to learn more about that natural, well, about nature, about our connection to nature, etc. And the more that I learn about tea bushes or tea trees and how they grow naturally and what keeps them healthy, etc., I learn things about us humans as well. For example, looking at how organically grown tea trees are much healthier than heavily fertilized, basically overfed tea bushes. So if you keep feeding tea bushes, they get less resistant to possible attacks from bugs. And so they get affected by diseases more easily, and that affects their yield. Whereas
would you say that there's a parallel between tea bushes and humans?
Yes, that's what I'm explaining right now.
Okay.
Yes, exactly. No, I would say that there is I learned that from tea bushes, and I see that parallel with humans. The more that you maintain that natural, a tea bush knows how to grow. We don't need to help it grow. And that's how a lot of the manufacturers that I work with operate. They let the tea tree grow, and they let it rely on its own natural immune system so that it can fend off bugs, it can protect itself against diseases, and then when spring comes, it produces delicious tea for us to enjoy. Right. So my mission really is, first of all, for myself to retain and maintain that connection with natural environment, and also to make tea available to others so that it can help them find their connection to nature again, and to give an inspiration to let tea be a part of a lifestyle more than just a beverage.
Right. Yeah, in my case, that has definitely happened as well. Like in the beginning, drinking matcha was like a beverage, and it was like the energy picked me up in the afternoon. But what I have noticed since I've been running my tea house, I'm drinking matcha and tea on a daily basis. And in the past, I got sick like every 6-8 weeks, especially here in Thailand. Air conditioning, in, out, heat, air conditioning, heat. I permanently, continuously got sick. And since I've been drinking matcha and tea on a regular daily basis, I never got sick again in over 3 years now.
That's a great example. And I actually don't like to say drink matcha to maintain your health or look at it as a medicine or as a cure for something. But what I do always say is that consuming matcha on a regular basis, basically making it a habit, will help you strengthen your immunity and help you strengthen your health so that you're just in better health all over.
Right. All right. Let me ask you my next official question. why do you, I mean, there's this controversy right now. I know that some people think that teaching tea ceremony online is simply not possible, and they see it as some kind of offensive because of the culture. But why did you actually decide to start teaching the tea ceremony online?
Yeah. Originally, I started teaching tea ceremony online 5 years ago. About 5 years ago. Since I was able to teach when I obtained an instructorship in my school of learning in the Enshu school, I, of course, took that very seriously and wanted to do something with it. So I started teaching my teacher, who was mostly dealing with exchange students that came to Japan for a short period of time. And so I would help him teach exchange students. And then when some of those exchange students go back home after half a year or 1 year in Japan, some of them wanted to continue learning tea ceremony. They would want to, of course, they had been doing this. It wasn't a great experience, but that's not just where it ends. If you're serious about it, you want to continue practicing, you want to continue learning. So not being able to continue learning in Japan, we had the great idea to use Skype at the time, and I would guide them through the process, and they would have a set of basic utensils that they would use to practice at their home. And I have been teaching for several students now. And over the years, they have also accumulated equipment. They've accumulated straw mats. They have gathered an iron kettle, etc., to properly do tea ceremony and to improve their practice. So that is really the reason why I started teaching online, to help people continue practicing. But then, of course, I also saw the benefits of teaching online, which is not only that I can keep in contact with students that I have already been teaching when they were in Japan, but also I can use the internet as a tool to start learning the basics of tea ceremony before. Well, what I would really want to say there is that there are a lot of limitations to the internet. And so the students that I have been teaching, the limitations that they have is that they can't use the utensils that I have at hand. In Japan, I have all the utensils that you need to do tea ceremony all year through. Whereas if they want to do the same thing, they also require the space, the equipment, and everything that comes with it. So we are limited to what you can obtain and gather. And the next thing is that if you learn tea ceremony in Japan, you have this group of disciples with which you learn tea ceremony together. You can watch each other's practice. You participate in a atmosphere. And tea ceremony is more about stepping out of the everyday world and entering somewhat a tea sanctuary where you are just going to eat. What?
Like a safe haven.
Like a safe haven, like where you are just present in the moment. You are sharing that moment with the people that you are with there, and everything that happens outside does not matter. And that's a very important aspect of tea ceremony. But to a certain degree, before you can actually already start enjoying the benefits and start understanding what it is to be in that present moment, there is a lot of information that you need to have before you can actually get to that point. The same with hosting a tea service. If you can host a tea service from start to finish, going through all the procedures, making the tea, serving the tea, giving tea to your guests, interacting with your guests, Before you get to that point, you need to memorize what the steps are that you need to go through.
Mm-hmm.
And so even if you're learning tea ceremony with us here in Japan, the first months you are going to be struggling with just memorizing what you are supposed to do. And you're just going to be oblivious to the atmosphere that is present. And you're not going to be able to feel the calming atmosphere that you are in because you are so stressed out just trying to figure out what you're supposed to do. That is really the reality when you start learning tea ceremony. There's so much information that you need to process at first.
Mm-hmm.
But then once you get to that point where you know how to do the service, then you can start learning to let go of thoughts, to really be in the present, to focus on what motions you are doing and the speed with which you are doing, the rhythm, etc. Before that, there's a lot to learn. And I realized that online is a great opportunity to already start teaching those basics, because for the basics you're memorizing it, you're learning it, you're training yourself, and you are well, you basically have to have practice a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So that is definitely something that you can teach online.
Mm-hmm. So it's safe to say that learning the tea ceremony, like even in the beginning when it's more stressful, to memorize all the steps, but it's also somewhat of a meditation that calms you down. And I think like in times that we're living in today, nowadays, especially with the ongoing pandemic that we have worldwide, there's so much noise out there. We get bombarded by all these news, and I think that taking this approach to learn something that not just gives me more knowledge about tea, but also more peace, inner peace,
Hmm.
and peace for the soul. I think that that's a great way to to actually do something good for yourself, right?
Right.
Right.
No, exactly. The meditative aspect of tea ceremonies is quite significant, and for that it's important that you also have the right atmosphere, have the right group with which to practice, and um, but before you can get to that point, you need to know what to do.
Right.
I mean, not to say not. Some people might take this a little bit in a different way, but sitting in Zazen meditation is easy. You cross your legs, sit your bum down, and stay down.
Hmm.
That's all you have to do. That's all you have to know. There's no procedure to it.
Right.
Of course, the process of staying down is difficult, but you
Yeah.
get the experience of the meditation.
Right.
Because with tea, to get to that point where it becomes meditative and somewhat therapeutic, you are going through a tremendous cognitive process where you are just so focused on memorizing the steps. What am I doing now? What is the next thing that I need to pick up? Where do I put this down? How do I hold this? Am I doing something wrong? Oh no, I'm embarrassed. I did this absolutely wrong and I did it right last time. And you're so much in your head when you're learning tea ceremony in the beginning
Right.
that like everything seems to go in all different directions. And you think to yourself, oh, I'm making this mess. What is meditative about it?
Yeah, I remember when I started learning with you earlier this year,
Mhm.
folding the fuxa and the chakin. It's just like, how? I knew it last time. I forgot, but it's part of the learning process.
And going through that process is very interesting because then once you get past that, you don't have to think about what you need to do anymore.
Right.
You remember it. You just do it,
Yeah, it's in
and
your
then you
subconscious
can
mind.
let go.
Right. Cool. Okay. I have a few more questions, and we have 20 more minutes, so we will definitely be in our time frame, and I know that you have stuff to do afterwards. Go home to the family. All right, let me check. Yeah, so I mean, I had a look already at the product that you started to offer just a little while ago. I think earlier this year in September, it was the 6-week tea ceremony intensive.
Yes.
And now you have changed the course a little bit. You adjusted. I think you got lots of feedback from students that actually wanted to join. So one of the thing was the price question. That's why you lowered the price to actually get access to the course. And it's easier for the students to actually follow up because they can do it in their own pace. I was personally quite overwhelmed in a positive way about how much detail and how much efforts you have put into this online course, and how detailed you have explained everything. And I personally, I did a little bit of research online, and I didn't find anything that is comparable to what you have created there. Um, do you think, I mean, maybe you know other people, maybe you know other tea masters in Japan or somewhere abroad that offers something similar? Do you think there is, I think I asked that before, but is there like a comparison to what you are offering in terms of knowledge and the amount of information that you provide to what others offer for maybe similar prices or a little bit lower?
I honestly don't know any online courses that promise you that you will be able to do some sort of tea ceremony in a certain way.
Hmm.
My course is also not promising that in 6 weeks you will become able to do tea ceremony.
Right.
No, you will become able to host a service of tea with the tray at a table, and you will know all the basic procedures like folding the fuxa and when to fold the fuxa, and how to fold it when you're going to cleanse the tea caddy, and what the procedure is and what the next step is. But I don't know of any course that is offering something similar. What I do know is that a lot of teachers that I know genuinely believe that you can't teach tea ceremony online. That tea ceremony is something that is not possible to teach online. You need to be right beside your student in the same room and do it there, because otherwise they'll never get it.
Right.
They already decide for their student that they can't do it if you're not next besides them.
Right. Well, I can say that from what I've experienced so far, studying one-on-one with you, and also from what I saw in that online course, you can definitely learn these things
I believe
through
that too.
video. And the approach that you took with different camera angles, trying to make it as easy as possible to understand for the student, is, yeah, it's quite significant. And yeah, as I said, I did a little bit of research. I didn't find anything that is coming even close to it.
Mhm.
And so for everybody that is interested, and I think you're not doing this, as you just said, you're not trying to teach them how to do the tea ceremony. This is something that you cannot learn within this short period of time. But what you do is you offer people an opportunity to actually get a foot into the door and get a taste of what
Mhm.
is possible, right?
I'm still convinced really that in the near future people will be able to travel again. And while we're all stuck at home now, there's using the course that I've created, you can at least already start learning the basics and getting a head start and becoming able to do a basic service of tea at your home and already start enjoying it. And once you get to that point, you can make it a sort of meditative habit that you can do in the morning, or,
Right.
for example, every week on Sunday, just to enjoy tea make it a healthy habit that you have, and do this. And then once you can actually come to Japan and be present in a tea chamber, this course will already have given you so much information that you basically know what to do. You are comfortable, you are relaxed. And if you then experience tea ceremony in a proper tea chamber, in a proper setting, I mean, you will be able to experience what the atmosphere is like and get a better understanding for it. So it gives you a head start to learning tea ceremony if you wish to continue doing that, and perhaps even in person when you visit Japan.
Right. And another benefit is you learn all these things, you get a better understanding without being committed for the rest of your life to be stuck at one tea school or with one teacher.
Yes, that's the great thing about online, I think, really, is that
Right.
you can get a taste of something, you can try it out, see if it's really what you thought it's like, and then after that decide if you continue or not without having really had an engagement with anyone or anything.
Mm-hmm. So another question, which is not on my list, but would you say that the approach that you take with the Tea Ceremony 101, which is your new program, would you say that if a student is actually taking that course and start to learn the basics of how to actually do a tea service, that the knowledge that they have gained through that course is also adaptable to a different tea school type like Urasenke?
Well, I teach in the Enshu style, and the Enshu style has specific ways of doing things. We actually also use specific types of utensils that not other schools use. So, for example, the silk cloth that we use, the fuxa,
Mm-hmm.
is it has different dimensions. It's not absolutely square, it's somewhat
Mm-hmm.
rectangular, whereas Urasenke fuxa tend to be square,
Mm-hmm.
and it's a little bit narrower but longer than regular Urasenke fuxa.
Mm-hmm.
So we also handle it in a different way, we fold it in a different way. So if you learn the tea ceremony online in this course and then say, okay, I'm going to continue my practice, you will have an understanding of what tea ceremony in the general sense is like, and what the process of a whole service of tea is. But you will have to learn the procedures in specific again for that specific school.
Mm-hmm.
So you will have to learn a different way of folding.
Okay. Just one moment. We actually starting to get a couple of questions for our viewer Sorips. I hope I pronounced that right. Sorips Astana. I will forward your question once we are through with our Q&A. There are just a few more questions, and then I will ask Sensei Sosen your question. So stick with us, and you will get your answer at the end of this Q&A. All right. So three more questions that I have, and then we're done from my part. What is the one thing students take away when they study with you?
Really, it is different for everyone. It's really interesting for me to see as well that every single student that I teach tea ceremony to, if it is one-on-one or if it is in this course, they have something that they take away from it that is, again, different from everyone else.
Mm-hmm.
Certain people might take the course as a means to implement a habit in their day, and they see it as something that they can learn and then use it as their moment of meditation.
Mm-hmm.
There are others that say, no, for me, really, it's the cultural background, and being able to do something physically gives me a better understanding of that culture tradition. And then when I read something, I can actually feel it within, because I have practiced something in a Japanese tradition.
Mm-hmm.
So it's really different for everyone. And what you take away from practicing tea ceremony, what you get from, everyone does the exact same thing. You learn the motions, you go through them, you repeat, and you keep on improving and improving and improving. And it's the same as with meditation, or with to cut it short, a self-improvement course.
Mm-hmm.
You get the tools, and as you start working with those tools, you start digging up things that are unique to yourself, unique to what you need from those from those tools, what you need to clarify and work with. And everyone has different situations, everyone has a different background, and it's really that what you go through also when you learn tea ceremony.
So it would be easy to say, or safe to say, that studying the tea ceremony will also bring out the better in you in one way or another.
Yes, it definitely will. I mean, giving you something that allows you a much calmer approach to life in general. I mean, it's interesting when I see some of my students, sometimes they're like really in a hurry.
Mm-hmm.
It's interesting, it's their day off. They had an absolutely busy week. It's their day off, and they're in a hurry doing tea
Sounds
ceremonies. Like,
familiar.
I gotta do all this. Yes, what do I do next?
Mm-hmm.
And like, what are you in a hurry for?
Right.
And then they realize, oh yeah, well, we have some time. We can do this. We should practice and be in the moment and be calm and do everything more mindfully.
Mm.
And so it does practice, but it helps you practice being more in a calm state, and that brings the better in you out. You just cultivate yourself in a way that you can take on life more easily.
Mm. So what I like to do is, or what I do on a, like, every morning after I get up, I meditate, and that is something that I really cherish, because it's like 20 minutes, 25 minutes of pure calmness, no stress, no worries, no nothing, just, focusing on myself, breathing, trying to keep my head empty. And so it's easy to say that learning the tea ceremony will actually do something similar to the students, that you actually have to commit to calm down and to focus on doing those movements, which gives you a bit of inner peace, right?
I had a conversation with someone who came to one of our practices this week, Tuesday, I guess. So
Mm-hmm.
it's a few days ago. And she's been coming to our practices, but doesn't want to learn how to do tea ceremony. She just wants to be in the present, in the moment, in the atmosphere. And that's also a very interesting approach, because she doesn't need to know how to pick up a tea scoop. She just wants to be there with us and
Mm-hmm.
sniffing that air. And
Interesting.
she practices qigong and tai chi,
Mm-hmm.
and also is an active Zen meditator. And so what we were talking about was that it is basically meditation in motion. And I saw a very strong similarity between tea ceremony and, say, for example, yoga.
Mm-hmm.
Because what you do is, with each and every motion, you are focusing on your body, on what you are doing. You are being aware of the motion that you're doing, of the tension that you feel when you extend your arm.
Mm-hmm.
How far do you need to extend your arm? Where are you going to put this utensil down? You just stay in that activity, just present, being absolutely aware of what is going on and what you are doing.
Mm-hmm.
So learning to observe yourself in a way like that is something that you learn through tea ceremony. And if you do tea ceremony in that way, it becomes like yoga, because you are with yoga as well, you are practicing to be aware of every single movement that you do, and maybe the movements in yoga are a little bit more intense than tea ceremony movements,
Yeah.
but in what happens in your mind is similar.
Hmm. The chemistry.
The chemistry, the attention, the awareness, the when I do tea ceremony, I'm in a different world. I'm in a completely different state of mind, because then there is only tea,
Mm.
and there's the utensils around me, and it's just 100% pure focus. Nothing else comes in.
Hmm.
So for some, it is easier than just sitting down in meditation, because you sit and there's not really anything to focus on unless you're focusing on your breath. Whereas with tea ceremony, you have movements that you are doing that you can be aware of, and it's easier to um, not worry about what is outside.
Mm. Cool. So what I would do now is I'm gonna actually ask you the question, or I'm gonna show you the question that one of our viewers asked. It's Sorips Astana, and he asked the question: Your new online program will be the same with 6-week program, or are there some differences? As I heard, there will be a one-on-one lesson.
So the 6-week program that I launched in September is the basis for this tea ceremony 101 course. It's also the same 6-week module, or the six. It's 6 modules. It's 6 weeks.
Okay. Yeah, his name is Spiros. So
Okay. So it's no. Let me say this: the course, initially I launched it as a 6-week program, but what I have realized is that learning this in 6 weeks, and the amount of information, the amount of video material that I present in the course, is really a ton to go through in 1 week, and every week again to be ready for the next week's content.
mhm,
So I decided not to call this a 6-week course, because you don't have to finish it in 6 weeks. It's 6 segments, and each segment gives you an important part of the surface of tea that we are learning. And once you're ready to move on to the next segment, then that will be ready there for you.
mhm,
And it's still in a way, every week I release a new segment.
mhm,
So in 6 weeks time, all the segments will be there for you. But once you are ready to learn the next segment, then you go on. So it can take you 3 weeks to learn one segment and then go to week 2, for example. That is absolutely fine. You don't have to sit through the entire course. And about one-on-one lessons, there is an availability of one-on-one lessons that you can opt in for separately, but it's not an exact part of the course itself. The course is the material with all the written documents, the videos, and that following that course alone will give you enough information to really practice it on your own. And I also include one live session at the 6th week of the course. So after the first 6 weeks of practice, then I will host a live session in which I will address most of the common questions that everyone asks.
mhm,
But the one-on-one lesson with me personally, like this, is an option that you can take on top of it, so that really, if you want to improve and allow me to help you to adjust where necessary, and watch a service of tea that you are doing, and then guide you through the process where you need to make some changes here and there, then I can definitely do that. And that
mhm.
is one of the options.
So what you did basically is, in case our viewers don't know, you have that 6-week program that you used to offer in September. But instead of releasing or having like this type of pressure that students had throughout the first round, we took that pressure out. So students can study at their own convenience and their own pace. You release a new segment each week over the period of 6 weeks. In each segment, you need to spend a certain amount of time. So that's one of the reasons, or you actually want people to invest a little bit of time in each segment. The time is, I think, 2, 3, 4, 5 minutes at least to be in that segment to unlock the next level, if you want it like that.
Mhm.
And you also added tons of add-ons like your matcha essential cores. You have your live tea ceremony basics, which was a paid
Live event.
event,
Mhm.
a live event, 2.5 hours. Then you have the Sunken Hearth, which was in November, like the tea practitioner's New Year, which is included. You have a copy of, like an ebook copy of your book, which I have here. I have the original
There
one.
is a ton of additionals, like a copy of my book, these the recordings of these live events. So basically, everything that I've done over the past months in live and online activities, the material is available to students in there. But also, the material in the course itself is so broad. There's so much information that I'm not just learning you one thing and then you have to wait till next week for the next thing to learn. You learn one segment and then I have different videos around peripheral aspects of that segment as well, and possible advanced steps. So you can approach the course in really different ways. You can learn the basic way first and go through that until week 6, and then come back and learn the advanced sequence. So you could actually go through the course 2 times, or you could learn the advanced at the same time as you are learning the basic approach,
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
gradually go through it that way. So you can really use the material in the way that is most suitable to you.
Mhm.
Um,
You also teach things like flower arrangements, vasks, and the role that we saw earlier. Like if I'm gonna give you the full screen, we
yeah.
see that arrangement on the side.
Well, it's not in absolute depth, but I do have a video that I guide you through and take you along in how I arrange a flower arrangement for a tea occasion. So I show you which flowers I pick and how they are arranged and how the alcove is decorated. Then we also talk about the scroll and what is significant about it. So there are different peripheral aspects that I also touch on as we go, so that you don't only learn how to do tea ceremony in a way, but also learn about what tea ceremony is in its broader cultural sense. Really, one of the first videos in the first week, I'm going to learn. I'm going to teach you how to walk.
How to what?
How to walk
Oh, in the tea room, right?
in the tea room. So the tea room is comprised of different straw matted segments, tatami mats,
Hmm.
and those have borders. And you're not supposed to step on the borders, but you are also supposed to cross those borders in a certain way.
Hmm.
So it becomes important to um, be aware of which foot to cross the border with, so that you can open your body towards the most important area in the room, etc. So these things I will also be talking about in one of the first videos, so that you get a better understanding of what it is to be in a tea chamber and what tea ceremony is if you see it in the setting where it is usually hosted.
Hmm. Cool, cool, cool. Sounds very good. I hope, Spiros, that we were able to answer your question. And if you're interested in joining the tea ceremony, there is tons of other stuff that we did not talk about yet. But if you just take the standard package that Tyas is offering for $497, you get tons of things. So may I ask how many hours approximately you have invested in creating, or how many weeks you have invested in creating this online course?
Well, for
Or
as much as
months?
I remember, from the date that I decided to make the course until we launched it in the early, I think the earliest week of September. So I
I
think
think
that's about
we
six
started
weeks.
talking about that in February, March.
Right. And then from the time that I actually started producing the material, it's easy 6 weeks to 2 months that I spent 3 to 4 days a week on just producing the material.
I remember you had holiday. You went on vacation. You closed your
In
shop
August,
for 4 weeks or 6 weeks, and during that time you were recording like every day.
August was crazy. I thought I'm going on a summer holiday. I'm going on a vacation. I went camping with my daughter the first or the second day of August after
Mhm.
I closed the store, because it was a type of lockdown here in Kyoto. No one really was wandering the streets, and I thought it's
Mhm.
too warm for me to go out. I just want to refresh myself as well because I opened the store in I opened the store in August last year, which is now a little bit over a year ago. But at that time was exactly 1 year, and amidst lockdowns and pandemic and people not wanting to go out, and there was it was not really the ideal time to open a store. So it's
Yes.
been quite.
Tell me about it. Yeah.
Most people are closing down business. I'm opening one. I don't know where this is going, but
Yeah,
I'm
we did the
enjoying.
same craziness. We opened a new branch exactly 2 weeks before the first curfew with lockdown in 2020.
Yeah, yeah. So I decided I needed to take a month of just. I'm going on vacation, I thought, and then
Hmm.
when I get back, I'll do those videos. I go camping with my daughter for one day. I come back, and the rest of August, I just decided I was going to come here to the store, and on the second floor, I would just spend hours and hours making video material for the course. Yeah, almost one whole month full time recording.
Yeah. So Tias invested a lot of time and energy into this. His heart and soul is in this course. So whoever is interested in learning tea ceremony or just find a new way to find inner peace and calmness in these crazy times that we're living in, I can highly, highly recommend this course. It's worth every cent that you're going to invest. I know some people complain about the price, but you will be surprised about what you're really going to get. It's worth way over $5,000 in my opinion. And it's going to be Christmas very soon. So whoever doesn't have a Christmas gift yet, this is a great gift as well, either for yourself or maybe for someone that you know that is interested in the tea ceremony. You can do it at your own pace. Um, I think we will going to launch the new course on January the 17th, but we already explained you can do that at your own pace. There is no commitment timely for you if you want to do it. It's just that date that we're starting to release the content in the members area. And I think I have one more question, actually two more. Um,
I'll try to
I'm
be
trying to,
brief in my answers.
yeah, I try to keep it as quick and as short as possible. The next question, actually, I would like to ask is: can you tell us three secrets of what our students will actually learn? But we kind of answered that already. There are tons of things. You will go very deep into the details. As I said, there's nothing comparable on the market out there. You will find a couple of tea ceremony schools. They teach you for 100, 200, $300, but that's just a few hours, and there is not that much depth in
I,
in this.
I honestly think that for the price that we're offering this material, the content, and
Mhm.
what you, if you think that there's much more, but if you think that each individual, well, the main lesson for every week is a 1 hour lesson, that means that you get 6 1 hour lessons plus all the additionals plus the advanced ways, gives you at least um, 18 to 20 lessons in things related to tea ceremony, in practicing, in learning how to do tea ceremony. And if you think that you want to get that many lessons to become able to do what you will become able to do after learning with this course, it is going to cost you way over the price that we're offering it at. So
Absolutely. Yeah.
I think that this is a very good deal, and I think also that you will learn a lot from it. And there really are
Absolutely.
no secrets to what I'm teaching in it. I mean, you will learn a whole lot about tea ceremony. You will, at the end of this course, become able to host a tray service at a table from start to finish, and you will be able to do it for your partner, your friend, your son, daughter. Um, so it's a skill. It's something that you can learn, that you will actually be able to do. It will be enjoyable. And at the end of the course, I will even go in more depth. I wasn't thinking about doing this. I thought the course should just be learning the tray service. But when by the time I got to week 6, and maybe this is the only secret that I will tell then, I thought, well, we're learning something about the tea ceremony. So, what is the tea ceremony? Everyone has the idea that you do tea ceremony on a straw mat with the iron kettle and with a ladle and everything properly. So, week 6 will actually also teach you to go to that point. Although you might not have the equipment, you will be able to learn about that approach, about the formal, proper tea ceremony approach, doing it in a proper tea ceremony setting as well.
Awesome. Yeah, secrets. I meant secrets in terms of, like what what you will teach, what others might not teach, and but we basically answered all
Well,
these questions now.
how, how much water you need to pour in for the amount of matcha that you have, and how to make it a perfect balance.
I remember that when we had our first lesson, when I was a student of yours, way back in January or February of this year, it completely blew me away. I did not have any of your matcha. I had my own, and I was preparing the matcha in your style, which I did not use a scale. I just measured with a scoop, and I added the water the way you teach. And my matcha, I remember I was like, "Is this the same? This cannot be the same
I
matcha."
do
And
remember your face.
yeah, it was like I was completely blown away. I never tasted my matcha, which I drank hundreds of times before, in this particular way. It was like drinking something completely new.
Hmm.
And that was like eye-opening to me, that there are so many different approaches, even though that I thought that I have knowledge about tea ceremony or about how to prepare tea. There's so much more to learn, and it's mind-boggling, um, what you can actually learn if you really decide to embark on this kind of journey,
Mhm.
right?
So I think that's a good one, and I don't think anyone else teaches that.
No, that's why I said, like I did a little bit of research. There are a couple of pages out there, and they have Udemy. They offer something, and then they have
Mhm.
like a private page in somewhere in Japan. But it's a, a friction of what you're actually teaching. So yeah, whoever is interested, this is your opportunity. I think we have the information on the screen. You will definitely get a couple of more of our emails. We will also forward for those who did not have the chance to join live. We're actually, or what I'm going to do is, I will take a recording of this live, and we will send it out via email to your list so that everybody has the chance to actually watch this.
Are we only
And
also going to keep this live on YouTube and on
it,
Facebook?
it will be live on YouTube and on Facebook, but who doesn't know that it's there will not see it. So we're gonna come to the people and share this amazing live, because Tyas is not that open usually, and he doesn't answer these many questions.
Talking
And
though.
yeah, and I would like to finish off this live Q&A with my final question for today, which is, what are your plans for 2022 as the T Crane, and are there any secrets you would like to share with us?
Gosh, nothing is really a secret, and
Podcast.
yeah, that as well. Nothing is really a secret. I mean, for me, there is a big change going on in the way that I live life, the awareness with which I basically go through every day. And I don't have huge plans to do something new. I just opened a store. I do want to keep this going, but I have a little new project that I do want to create some awareness about, which I have termed natural immunity, pun intended.
Mm-hmm.
And it focuses around some very good everyday organic teas, through which, as I said earlier, what my mission really is to provide teas that can reconstitute that connection between us humans and nature, bring us that awareness of how we can continue and go back to nature and adopt the natural ways of living again. And so I'm setting up a project to, through tea, rediscover authentic and natural values that can enrich our lives and make us healthier, strengthen our immune system, and just live so much more happily, stress-free, and relaxed.
Right.
So that project is called Natural Immunity. I'm still working on how to bring this out in the world and how to what to do with it, really. But one of the aspects is going to be, as Tom was whispering, podcast. We'll be talking about things that relate to tea, but also just the way that we live life. And I could start for myself. Every morning I spend about 2 hours doing meditation, having my morning tea ritual, yoga, cold showering, really doing a lot of things, including cooking is one of my morning activities, because I'm also very aware of when and what I eat. Intermittent fasting is something that I practice diligently. And then I also care about when and what to eat. And because I have a pretty busy day schedule, I try to make time in the evening and in the morning to prepare what I eat for the next day or that day. So these things I have come to through, well, interacting with natural teas that also contribute to health, that also are produced in a way that that is natural by producers that also care for their natural environment and have that mindset.
Right.
So I hope to share that, and I hope to do more with that next year and really build. I mean, I want to open up what I'm doing to more people to together inspire one another and
Right.
create an environment where that everyone has an opportunity to better themselves, to find other ways to improve their quality of life. And I think it's everyone's right
Right.
to have access to their own internal steering wheel and say, I'm going to be in charge of my life, but how do I do that?
Right. Yeah, that's a great approach, and I'm definitely looking forward to that. And just as a side note, I mean, Tias and I, we've been, as I mentioned earlier in this interview style Q&A that we had today, we've been working together for quite some time now, and as a Westerner trying to open a tea business outside of Japan, not being able to communicate in Japanese, it is very, very challenging. And when I approached Tias and when we had all these ideas, what I felt was like this, like having chains on the hands, or like being handcuffed. Um, because the nothing against the Japanese tea culture or in general the Japanese culture, but the Japanese culture is very special in its own way, in good ways and in not so good ways, and it's very difficult to get your foot into the door, no matter how. If you want to get matcha from a tea farm, if you want to learn the tea ceremony, there are so many obstacles which drove me nuts so many times in the past. I'm very grateful for the people that I know in Japan that really helped me and my wife to build our business. But the problems and the obstacles that we went through, everybody else has to face these obstacles. And there's so little information out there. Um, which is one of the reasons why this whole Japanese tea culture industry is struggling. The average tea drinker in Japan is getting older and older. There's this language barrier, which is one of the reasons why so much of the produced tea in Japan stays in Japan and never really finds its way out of Japan. And I really love the product, not just, to sell or something. I really love tea, and I really think that sitting down with someone to enjoy a cup of tea is so mood and mind enhancing and elevating. There are so many deep conversations that you can have while you drink a cup of tea. And it's interesting because you will always attract these types of people into your life that are exactly interested in that thing. But since not many people are talking about it, there are so little YouTube channels dedicated to tea, and they're almost, I haven't found any podcast around Japanese tea or the tea culture. That's why we came up with this idea. Why don't we do something that we did today, like this interview style? Um, in the future, we will talk about teas, cultivars, and natural immunity, the health benefits, the spiritual benefits of drinking tea, combining all these things into one of the new brands that Tias just mentioned with the natural immunity. And I'm really looking forward to that. I think it's going to be great. And we can provide lots of value to the tea community out there. And yeah, so this is one of the things that we're going to actually start pretty soon. I hope in January we will do our first podcast.
Yeah, no, it definitely. And I mean, as you said, tea is a means to smoothen conversation. It's like the lubricant that smooths conversation. And if you could just enjoy tea while talking about, not necessarily about tea always, it's still tea that helps you get to that um, interesting conversation. And the podcast that we'll be doing, the chats that we'll be having, I think will be a lot about life, living life, enjoying life.
Yeah.
Of course, about tea as well, but just taking it a bit broader. It's not just focusing on tea, 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 tea. No, there's tea and there's life, and tea is a
Right.
big part of life. But how can it enhance life,
Mm.
and which aspects of life can it enhance, and how do you see it in its bigger picture? And I, I kind of feel that no one really enjoys tea for the sake of tea, but they enjoy tea because it's a part of their life that enhances certain parts of their life that other things can't enhance, or
Right.
it can sort of create moments in life. But no one is just, tea is my life.
Right.
There are different
Tea,
things in your life, and then
tea,
there's
tea,
tea.
yeah, and tea is a tool in so many different ways. It's a beverage, it's a tool. It will allow you to decelerate. Like as I said a couple of times, we live in very hectic and stressful times. These whole lockdown things and COVID and new variants bombarded daily in the news is not really healthy for the state of mind.
Hmm.
And to allow yourself to actually take a step back, and if it's only 20 minutes, 30 minutes, or 1 hour per day that you allow yourself to actually be yourself again, um, I think this is one of the greatest gifts that we can give ourselves in the times that we're living in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And simply by enjoying tea and enjoying conversation, I would find it a great honor to be able to, just through talking about the things that we do, the things that we enjoy, inspire other people to also take action,
Right.
and maybe to get insights to better, well, to turn their life in a better or more enjoyable direction. So
Right.
if that can be my contribution through tea and through doing interesting things with this new project, podcast is one of them. But of course, I think it'd be a lot of fun if we could all together also do certain challenges
Yeah.
and
Absolutely.
just try new things. And I mean, life is a journey, so we just gotta experiment and try new things and see what happens. And there is no right way. There's just going the way.
Right. What There's this one proverb: the way of the path. No, the way is the path. Right? Isn't it? No, the path is the goal. I think I screwed that up.
Yeah, well, the way is the path, and if you start when you start walking, the path will unfold.
Yeah. Anyways, I
I think that's
think
a good note to end our session today.
exactamundo. And so there's nothing left for me but to say, whoever is watching this, check out Tia's Tea Ceremony 101.
Oh no, it's here.
Go and get it yourself. It's right here. Ding, 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 ding. Go and get it. Do yourself this favor. It's an amazing gift that you can do for yourself, or that you can give yourself, or someone that you really love, and you know that this person is interested in tea, or in the tea ceremony, or in Japanese culture in general. This is the beauty about Tia's new product. You, if you try to take an approach the old way or the traditional way, this might be not the right fit for you. But if you are interested and open-minded to try something new, to actually learn something about the culture, the beauty about tea and the tea ceremony itself, this is the perfect product. Go and get it. And thank you, Tias, for joining this incognito live Q&A without knowing what's coming. And for all the viewers, I'm wishing you all a Merry Christmas wherever you are, Hanukkah or whatever you believe in. Happy holidays, Happy New Year for 2022. And hopefully everything will get a little bit better and less hectic and stressful in the next year. Keep drinking the good stuff. Keep drinking tea.
And
And
of course, all the same from my side. Merry Christmas, Happy New Year. See you on the inside.
or the other side. Bye-bye.